We're working on a series where we're looking at some of the relationships that we have with others. And I'm going to talk about the relationships that we have in our homes. It's actually a little overwhelming to try to give some principles and perspective to those relationships. I remember back when Laura and I were a newlywed couple living in Vermont, and we were expecting Eric, our first child. We had joined a number of other young parents in a childbirth class in preparation and anticipation of the birth. In the class, the instructor asked the question of what were the fears that people were having. There were all kinds of normal fears about giving birth. But Laura and I expressed the fears that we had of being good parents. I remember someone in the class saying, kids come out the way they are, and parents don't make a difference. It's easy to see that this isn't true. Relationships in the home are so significant. This is true both of the relationship between the parents and the child, but also the relationship that the couple have. Parenting's a challenge because every parent's a rookie. And what do rookies do? Rookies make mistakes. And parents, even if they have the best of intentions, are going to make mistakes. Books can help, but it's impossible to cover every parenting scenario in a book. Children are unique, and what works for one often doesn't work for the next. I know Laura and I felt like we'd figured things out, and then the next child would come, and they seemed to change all the rules. What worked for one didn't work for the next. Another challenge in parenting is a challenge that impacts all of our relationships. And that's the fact that by nature and by choice, we're sinners, with a default setting towards personal comfort and selfishness. The Apostle John says that Jesus was full of grace and truth, John 1:14. And this is a great guide in us and in our relationships. Both grace and truth are needed. Grace has shown acceptance and forgiveness. And we need to give grace to ourselves and also to our kids and also to our spouses. Truth is the guide or the standard of right. And we need that guidance. But without grace, truth is harsh and condemning. There was a speaker that Laura and I heard on parenting, and they said that parents and children are like planets. It's actually a great illustration. When the child's an infant, the parents orbit around that child, meeting all their needs. But as they get older, the orbit needs to change, and the child needs to move out and start to orbit around the parents. Eventually, the child's launched off, and they start a new and separate orbit. The challenge of parenting is guiding and teaching the child so that they can function as adults, emotionally, spiritually, but also behaviorally. For couples with or without kids, we face a common challenge of becoming and staying one. Family Life and their Weekend Remember conference does a good job of talking about all the things in our culture that pull couples apart. Unfortunately, there's very few things that pull couples together. It takes commitment and it takes work. You'll laugh at me, but I've often thought that canoeing is a good metaphor for marriage. You get in the boat together, you communicate, and you work together in helping to make it go forward. And individually and collectively, you work at keeping the boat upright. And if the boat tips, you get back in the boat and you figure out what went wrong. The Apostle Peter, in his first letter, after talking about husbands and wives and relationships in general, writes this concluding statement. And it's a great guide for us. I'm going to read from the Message translation because I like the way it reads. Summing up, be agreeable, be sympathetic, be loving, be compassionate, be humble. That goes for all of you. No exceptions, no retaliation, no sharp-tongued sarcasm. Instead, bless. That's your job, to bless. You'll be a blessing and also get a blessing. I don't know about you, but this list is challenging. Sometimes I do these things, but sometimes I don't. As I look back over the years, I can see that Laura and I are better than we were. But we still have room to grow. This is the goal. A home that's peaceful, harmonious, where love is present, and where we bless and are a blessing to each other. Many of us grew up in homes where anger, hatred, and strife ruled. The truth is that the relationships in our homes can be the most positive and supportive, or they can be the most destructive. Let's change the script. Let's be homes where the love of Christ rules, a love that is both grace and truth.